So, a few questions for you. You mentioned taxes. Are there, what tax provisions for increasing taxes or tax cuts do we see within this bill that we have before us?
I'm pulling out my papers. I apologize. Ask that question again. I'm sorry.
So within this, you'd mentioned in your opening remarks that there are some tax provisions within this. I'm just looking to see what are we doing with increasing taxes or cutting taxes within this bill?
What we have done is extend the taxes, and it increases the revenue by $735 million in 2017-18, and $3.19 billion for 2018-19. $3.461 billion for fiscal year 2019-2020, and $553 million in 2020 and 2021.
So that's extending the high earner tax, or so-called millionaires tax, have provided you with those. Are there any other actions for taxing that you would have done in this budget, tax increases?
Yes, with expanded employee incentive credit programs to make it easier for companies to include workers training as part of the expansion projects. I think my daughter is calling me. No, I can't find it. Yeah, it's my daughter. She wants to know if I'm alive. I can't talk now, sweetheart. And everybody's laughing about.
Well, that's a new one.
They're all looking for us, then.
Yeah. Let's see. What other tax? We've done loopholes. We've closed loopholes.
Do you have the amount on the loopholes? How much that closes?
About $56 million.
And you know, I asked about taxes overall. Are there any business tax cuts that we see within this bill? Small businesses. I know in the original provision from both houses and actually the governor, there were some small business tax cuts from each entity. None of them matched, but did any of them prevail so that we could tell our small businesses they can anticipate some savings?
For business tax action, we expanded the Employees Training Incentive Credit Program to make it easier for companies to include worker trainings as part of the expansion projects, extend the alternative fuels and electric vehicle charging station tax credits for an additional 5 years, clarify that the investment tax credit cannot be claimed for the distribution of utility services. And we've also extended youth work jobs programs for 5 years from its overall allocation of $50 million, dedicating $10 million for an apprenticeship program. create new research and development tax credits for small life science companies, and expand the Accelerator Jobs Program eligibility for life science companies, and on and on and on.
Thank you. Going back to the high earners tax or the millionaires tax, do we have a determination? I know the governor had originally proposed that it be for 3 years. The Assembly originally had proposed that it be for a significantly higher amount. From the numbers you gave, that did not prevail, that proposal. And the length ends up being how long for the tax being extended?
2 years, but because of the way that we pay it, we start next year, though we will be in this cycle, we will start with the extender and to begin it next January to March. And then we will go through 2 years, and then we will end with that tail left over in 2021. So, but when you finish, it's 2-year extender. Done in 3 years.
Thank you. One of the things that I see in here is, and one of the things that the governor talked about several times when he first proposed this budget, he put some strong language in about giving the executive power to, should the federal government do some cuts, make some adjustments, and it affects our fiscal year, to give the power to the executive to be able to make adjustments and cuts within the state budget. But as I see within this plan, we have now given the option of creating a concurrent resolution of the legislature that would, if given to the governor within, I believe, 90 days or whatever, from notice of those cuts, if that is not done, then the director of the Division of the Budget would have power to make those adjustments on his own. I guess I have a question of you concerning the process with that. I was just trying to think through, what if both houses of the legislature pass the concurrent resolution?
The extension.
Does the governor then have to accept that? Or with a concurrent resolution, does the governor have a veto power at that point?
Yeah. The governor, they say here, the governor cannot veto a concurrent resolution.
So if, and by the way, I would say kudos from my perspective, and I'm sure many on my side of the aisle appreciate the efforts to give the legislature a role instead of giving the executive total control on this. But what you're saying from this is if the legislature can agree and act within that time frame, then in essence the governor does not have a role in that process. He does not have to accept or reject that resolution. It's just the resolution would carry the day and make the determinations on the various cuts that may or may not have to be made.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. A couple of comments and questions related to the provision of raise the age. I know that's been discussed a great deal. Many of the people who've expressed concerns about this, obviously it's related to policy and whatever, but also the possibility of that being a significant unfunded mandate on the counties. But within this bill, we find that the state, for tax cap compliant counties, would be able to be reimbursed by the state for all their expenses related to enacting Raise the Age. My question would be with that then, how does the county account for that? Does the county during the year, I know this isn't going to go into effect until I believe October of next year, but does the county simply write up a bill to the state and say, here are all the costs that we have related to this? Our probation department, our support staff who've had to fill out reports, whatever it might be, add all those up, submit to the state, and the state pays the bill, and then we're all good, and it's not an unfunded mandate. Do we have some kind of process related to that?
They will pay for their new, if they expend it, what they expend, they can get back, but the new, whatever they do going
And
forward.
what would be additional costs to the, but,
Yes.
and so they're eligible, but I'm just trying to figure out, so how do I prove to New York State, again, or is there going to be a process developed that, you know, we can assure our local counties when we go back that Raise the Age, if enacted, will not cost county property taxpayers additional dollars.
Right? Yes.
All right. In the issue of the workers' comp changes,
Yes.
some significant changes enacted, things proposed within this, just a few questions surrounding that. Do you believe, now having put this together, and those who have done this, is this going to be something that, I know there's been input from employees, employers, I believe the comp carriers as well. Are we confident that this is going to be a positive for both the employers and the employees with these changes that we're making?
Yes.
And are we, in saying that to the employers then, are we going to anticipate reduction in costs once these are fully enacted?
Yes. Yes.
Do we have any sense, percent type things? Have they done estimations of that type of thing or not?
The board has not yet estimated savings to the employers.
I know there's going to be a fairly large panel, well, I'm not sure how large it's going to be, but a panel put together with interest from different groups to establish guidelines. And that's supposed to be done by, I believe, January of 18. If not, it gives the, I believe, the commissioner authority to develop emergency guidelines, or at least enforce those. Do we know who would write those, or what types of those guidelines can we anticipate or not?
The board will write the lines.
The board will,
Will write them.
the board will write them. And the STAR personal income tax credit system. Both of us, when I say both of us, both houses of the legislature put in proposals to change that procedure. But within this budget, I see that they, the two houses of the legislature did not prevail. We're going to continue on with the process as it's been going. And I know in my district office and some people on the street, I got an awful lot of people coming to me with their specific complaints. And actually whole communities got impacted. I had one who went through a dissolution of the village, and so their checks were delayed significantly. Have there been some actions taken now within the budget that would convince me and those who might be listening to us at this point, either legislators or others, are there some things that we now can be assured of and assure them that the department is going to be able to do? If we're going to keep doing it this way, we're going to be able to do it in a timely, effective way, and people will be able to receive their checks in a responsible and reasonable manner.
Yes, they are working to make sure they can do it. They'll be working together, and we think it'll be better than it has been.
I hope so. And I think a lot of those who were impacted by it, the taxpayers, will feel the same. Thank you, Mr. Farrell, for your answers. Mr. Speaker, on the bill.
On the bill, Mr. Oaks.
I know there are a number of my other colleagues who want to ask some more specific questions about some of the areas that I may have touched on today. This bill encompasses so many areas, so many different issues, many of them super important to the citizens of New York, but instead of us dealing with some of these in a policy way outside the budget process, we've combined these, and rather than dealing with them in kind of a holistic way within the budget process, we see this lumped together, all these issues, in this one bill. And so today, as I sit here and look at this, and my concerns continue to be, we did not do the increase in the millionaire's tax, which I was pleased that that didn't happen, but we still continue to depend to a very high extent on the highest of earners in New York State. And I've made those comments before. My concern is that just should we have a downturn in the economy, those individuals are most likely to be impacted to a greater percentage, and we may end up seeing significant losses in revenue. And so it's a cautionary message to, I think, all of us to say it may make today's budget easier to meet the dollars. And I know, as the chairman has given me numbers, in looking forward, we're looking at having some actual excess dollars in some of the out years over the next couple years. Just that, as the governor's told us to be cautionary in dollars this year, I would just say that continues to be an issue. There's the issue of shared services and how that's all going to be implemented. I think concerns continue surrounding that. Certainly raise the age and the costs that they may bring to our county governments. Hopefully the provision that we put in the budget stands. But when we look at the overall budget process, the wariness that all of us share, I think there's relief in that we're coming to a close, but also obviously a concern for the process and a concern that policy, to the extent that we have done it, resides within this budget and specifically within this bill. But I look forward to the continuing discussion and information as we try to glean all the policy that is in this bill, but ultimately move forward to a final budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.